Me start feel my body just give way. And them I said, don't push it now, whatever you do, don't push. Whitney, come, Whitney. We need the baby, Whitney. Whitney, come. Whitney, push out the baby, Whitney. Me say, boy, hold on, the duck, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. And then I heard a cry. And then the baby, she put the baby on my tummy. Hi, mamas and friends. Welcome to the Memories and Motherhood podcast. I'm Whitney, your baby photographer and host. This podcast is brought to you by Little Memories JA, where little moments last a lifetime. From maternity to newborns to birthdays, we capture the moments that matter the most. Now, today's episode is all about my birth story. I've never told this publicly before, and I thought it was interesting to just share because I didn't have, like anything traumatizing or anything like that. It was definitely a very good experience, but one that I would love to share with you, my village. You're part of the family now, basically. Before I dive in, though, I just want to remind you to click like, to subscribe, turn on that notification bell so that you can be notified when the next episode drops. So grab your friends, grab your village, and let's dive into this episode of the Memories and Motherhood podcast. So, April 21, 2024 was like my last 8 hours of sleep. That's the first thing I remember. But it was also the night that, would have changed my life forever because the following morning I gave birth to my first baby. Now, pregnancy itself was smooth enough. I didn't have a rough pregnancy. I wasn't heavily pregnant. It was manageable. It was just so beautiful. When I just found out that I was pregnant, of course I was excited and I was, so I was anticipating just everything that would happen. And there are so many things that happened that I didn't even prepare for. The first thing that I remember was spotting at about 8 weeks or about 6 weeks. And I remember calling the doctor before I even went to do my first doctor's visit. I was like, Doc, something is happening. I don't know what it is. And I went into the doctor right away and she prescribed an ultrasound for me. And we found out that, you're progressing nicely. At that time, the baby was just a little dot, but that confirmed that everything was good and that we were on track for everything. However, after that, the doctor prescribed progesterone pills. Now, I didn't even know that progesterone pills were a thing, meaning they have to be inserted every day. So I had to ensure that I had progesterone pills inserted every day for about 3 months, which was basically the first trimester, just to ensure that the pregnancy was secure and safe. Fast forward to the end of my pregnancy, everything was on track, baby was on track. Of course, as I said, I wasn't a heavily pregnant person. All my tests were good and I was ready to go on maternity leave. Now, I decided that, I could go up until the day before I had the baby. And maybe I was right because that's exactly what happened. I was at 38 weeks preparing to have my baby, saying, okay, everything is set to an extent, and I'm going to have my last client. And so that night, I edited the last photos and said, okay, I'm going to bed now. It was a Sunday evening. I just eat my Sunday dinner from about 6 o'clock. I said, babe, I'm a bit tired, so I'm just gonna go to sleep. And I went to bed early that night about 10 o'clock. Now, sleeping nice and everything. And about 12 o'clock, I just jumped up out of my bed like, no man, something feel wet. Like right, I so just feel wet. And when I got up, I checked the bed and it was wet. And I went to the bathroom. My husband was in the bathroom. And I knocked on the door and I said, babe, a bed wet up. And my husband said, what that mean? What that mean? And I said, it made wet. Like, it means some water break. So at this point, he was like, all right, me I go bed now. But my man took up his towel to go into the shower instead of his rag. So he was fully confused. So the first thing I did was call his mother. I was like, say, me want a break. So she was like, well, call your doctor. So I called my doctor, and my doctor answered the phone like, hey, doc, my water broke. She's like, then it could have break in our morning. So instantly I was like, why? I don't know. But anyway, she said, okay, I'm going to call the hospital and then I'll get back to you. Now, mind you, I was delivering at a private hospital and this was already secure from weeks before. So the doctor called the hospital, called me back, told me, okay, proceed to the hospital as soon as possible. So once you're pregnant and the membrane ruptures, which is what they call the water breaking, you must have the baby within the next 24 hours, I've been told, because there's risk of infection, all of those things. So within an hour, I went to the hospital, got checked in, got very comfortable. Now, listen, I was a prepared first time mom, right? I never have no suitcase, but I had my hospital bag packed to the T. I had a birthing ball. I had an hypnobirthing app on my phone. One of those apps that would tell me that your body was made for this. You can do this. God has given you a body that can handle giving birth. You are prepared. All the positive vibes and the energy that you could need. I had that already. I had a playlist for the delivery room. I had a speaker. I had my pillow. I had me have my everything. Me just think somewhere well prepared. So I went to the hospital, as I said, with everything that I had. Well, except the speaker, but the phone have a speaker. So I had everything planned out. But when I got to the hospital, the doctor wasn't there yet. So the nurses at the hospital got me settled in and they did their first cervical check. Now listen, the doctor used to check me when I used to go to her during the visits, but I didn't know that cervical checks during labor would have been this uncomfortable. And when me tell you say uncomfortable, uncomfortable. So at first when they checked me, I was about 2 centimeters dilated. That are like nowhere near ready to have a baby. And this was about 1 o'clock in the morning. So the I was monitored. They hooked me up to a machine that I think there was something across my belly, and they hooked me up to a machine for monitoring for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, they said, okay, the baby looks fine, everything looks okay. We're just waiting on your doctor. Doctor came in about an hour later, and right away, the doctor inserted a drip into my hand and she started administering oxytocin. Now, oxytocin is basically a medicine to induce the labor. So she was like, all right, I'm going to just push a small dose of oxytocin and see how your body reacts to it. I'm like, all right, no problem. So she started administering the oxytocin, and then that is when I started feeling contractions. So throughout the time, right, she did several cervical checks. But may I tell her, say, as the time went on, the cervical checks started getting even more uncomfortable. At one point, I was like, Doc, no more cervical checks. This is so uncomfortable. It's so painful. And she has said, all right, Whitney, no more, no more. And she still a check me. And I'm like, all right, this is it. Now, remember that came in about 2 o'clock. So when we got to about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, labor was progressing. I was feeling contractions. And one of the things that the midwife told me is that every contraction you feel, squat with it. So every time I felt a contraction, I was down deep into a squat and I held the squat until it was done and then I was okay again. But I couldn't sleep. I couldn't lie down. I couldn't sit down. I could only just walk around. I just felt the urge to keep walking, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving until I was in that deep contraction and I squatted down. So probably about 4 o'clock. going on to about 4:30, the doctor did her last cervical check. And at that time, I was about 7 centimeters dilated. So she knew that it was very soon, time was coming. And so about 4:30 now, she started preparing the room. But I didn't even know that it was a different room that I was going to deliver in from where I was, because I a nice bed and me prepare and pack out everything. And remember, I told you that my birthing app was running in the background. So it kept telling me, deep breath in, hold for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, out for 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this was just so calming, so peaceful, It made me feel like a true superhuman, like I remember the nurse saying, boy, I never see nobody so calm when they're in a labor. And I was really tugging it out like I was a G during my labor. So when the time came now for the room to be prepared and everything, I just remember the nurse coming to me and say, listen, every instruction that I say to you, every instruction you hear, just follow it to the T and the baby will be out in no time. She said, when you're gonna push, hold the inside of your thigh and pull your legs into you and push your head through your legs. So this, remember, this is natural birth, right? So basically, I'm just pulling my legs up and pushing my face in. Okay, it never sound hard. Like, me not tell no lie. It sound like when you're on your bed and you just do some pull-ups. Like, it never sound hard, none at all. But then when I was about to get to the place that I was gonna give birth, me start feel my body just like give way. And them I said, don't push, whatever you do, don't push. I wasn't pushing. I just felt my body giving way. Like literally, I was like number one and number two at the same time before I got to the bed. So now I'm at the bed and me I said, well, what is like this look like something what they use for chop up meat pan. Like it was literally a flat surface, the flattest surface I've ever laid on in my entire life. Only the bottom of it, where my rear was gonna go, was a little bit raised. So can you imagine how hard it was? Me already deep, 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 deep in a labor, and I have to lie down on this flat surface. It took out probably it take about a good 15 minutes to actually reach the end that I needed to be on. So now I'm lying down on my back and I reach up to the part of my reach, and then you have the two little something them at the sides, and my feet should go in the what do you call them? The stirrups. So now I'm putting my foot in the stirrup, and this one, yeah, my foot going out. This one, I put my foot in it and it goes go. I just drop down and I'm like, what is like what is this? How can I give birth in this situation? Like this is ghetto, right? So me couldn't even use the stirrups. Like really and truly, it just never made no sense. So I was like, all right, regardless of all of this, I'm just gonna channel my inner superhuman and just push this baby out. Now, the instruction was to push on each contraction. That is the way we're gonna get the baby out. So I followed the instruction. I held my thighs and I folded my head through, trying to push my head through my thighs. And but the problem is, I couldn't figure out what a contraction was when I was on the flat surface. I could tell what the contraction was when I was moving around. It was very easy because it was that sharp pain. But when I was in a lying down position, it was so hard to figure out when to push, because I don't know when the contraction is coming. But apparently the nurse and the doctor could see the tightening up or whatever. So they were like, all right, this is it, push. So I just pushed with their instructions. No, the pushing that I had to be doing was like pooing, right? So that is basically what pushing is. It's not like, it's more like you have to be bearing down. So I feel like me push probably about a good 3, 4 times. until the doctor starts saying, Whitney, come, Whitney, we need the baby, Whitney, Whitney, come, Whitney, push out the baby, Whitney. Me say, boy, hold on, the doc, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Me don't know how this pushing thing they get to me. And the doctor was trying, she went really try hard for motivate me. She was like, Whitney, we can see the head, you know, you see the head is right there. Might I mention that my husband was in the delivery room, right? So my husband was there looking like, Whitney, me can see your head for true. Babe, come, you can do this, babe. Babe, you can do this. You can do this. And by the way, my man come in the delivery room with one shirt. And at the back, it says, just push it. I'm like, why would you come in the delivery room with a shirt like this, bro? So anyway, I was like, all right, I'm gonna try. I'm really gonna try because by this time the baby was like crowning. Everybody could see her head, all of them things there. So all right, we're about to do the last push. Like, so this was the push that we needed to get the baby out. So me I prepare my brain for the push. So me I say, all right. Me really have for the like gear up, like get ready for the push. So I feel like me kind of, like I was ready, like I was really pushing. And then my husband I say, yes, baby, it's happening. She's coming. And the doctor they say, yes, Whitney, push the baby, Whitney. We need the baby, Whitney. And then I heard a cry. And then the baby, she put the baby on my tummy. And that was like when like time just paused. Like everything in that moment, like I literally pushed out a baby and the baby was here on my belly. And listen, I didn't even know that the doctor actually slit me. Like she used the scissors and she cut a little bit to help me deliver the baby. And at that moment, when she put the baby on my belly, I touched my baby for the first time. She was covered in all sorts of things because she just come out of my belly. But it was just a moment that like I was like, wow. And but right away it was a bit short lived because away they were like, okay, we have to just take her, the pediatrician has to check her and all of that. But the good thing is that the pediatrician was checking her right beside me in the room. So my husband got to, cut the umbilical cord and he was there looking at her. He took her first picture. He was there. He held her for the first time. I touched her for the first time, but he held her for the first time after she was neatly wrapped up and swaddled. And after the birth, I thought that, okay, me have to go and push again for push out the placenta. But I didn't even know that the placenta comes out on its own. So after the delivery, the doctor inject the leg, like an injection of I think more oxytocin or something in the leg, and that helps the placenta, the uterus to contract so that the placenta can be pushed out. So the nurse literally just press my belly and the placenta just slide out. And that was like the end. But that's what I thought was the end because, they have to clean up. And after that, remember, I'm still on the very uncomfortable surface. So they had to now clean me up. And while the nurse was cleaning me up, I remember just shaking, like I was just shivering, 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 shivering. I read about this because, I heard that you have after birth shivers. But this was just so it was so weird. Like me could even like I'm like like it was like crazy shivering. But this didn't last for too long. And then after I finished and the nurse basically give me a little tidying up, it was like time for me to meet my baby. And when I went in the room and I held my baby for the first time, I cried because I can just remember how amazing this moment was because this was like, not my creation, but my work because I gave. birth to this little human being. And she was so tiny. She was 5 pounds and 15 ounces. And let me tell you, I tried to breastfeed right away because for me, breastfeeding was one of my priorities. I always wanted to breastfeed. I was determined that I was going to breastfeed. And based on my research, breastfeeding within the first hour after giving birth, which is called the golden hour, is the most important thing in stimulating the body to release milk, in telling the body that, hey, baby is here, so let's feed her. So of course I'm a new mom and my milk didn't come in right away. I don't even know if my baby was getting anything, honestly, maybe colostrum or whatever, but I just tried, to breastfeed because it was just the thing that I wanted to do. And I just remember that first moment breastfeeding, it felt foreign. Like I've never had someone, I mean, apart from the obvious one, I've never had someone latching on my breast before, depending on it for life. And I mean, it was just that awe-inspiring moment. And I tried, and I held her to the breast and she sucked and she latched well right away. And I tried out, the cradle hold, and the nurse also told me to put her down on the bed beside me and try the side position, which was very awkward because it was a very small baby and my breast was bigger than her. And I was like, this is very awkward. But all in all, it was a good, positive birth experience. I mean, I'm happy that my husband was there. I think I had a good doctor. She was not one who was going to take chances. She was like, there to motivate me, to inspire me. My midwife was also very good. I remember when I was deep in the trenches and she just got some olive oil and she just started rub me back, and that was just so peaceful. That just helped to calm me down. And when the doctor was there and I felt like I was my doctor's daughter, because she was just so motherly to me in the moment. And would I go again? Hmm, maybe. Yeah, I think I would. I definitely think I would. Probably not like more than once more, because hey, but I definitely appreciate the birthing experience that I had. And it gives me hope that, there are people out there who are genuinely knowledgeable and they are equipped with helping you to understand how to give birth. They're equipped with helping you to know that your body was made for this. And so I'm so glad that I I trusted my body. I'm so glad that I trusted my team. I'm so glad that I had my support system right there with me, because having my husband there was one of the main reasons I even went private instead of public. And also because I wanted the opportunity to to prepare, not to prepare, but to create my own birthing environment, one that was positive, one that that had the right support system, one that was comfortable, and one that was energizing. And so, yeah, that was my birth story. I mean, I was discharged from the hospital within 24 hours. The hospital that I delivered in, by the way, was Montego Bay Hospital. The only downside for me is that at the time they were doing construction and it was a little bit hard to, get some rest after the baby. But it was comfortable in terms of the environment. They had a good shower, they had good restroom facilities. The staff was beautiful. They were so caring. They when because I couldn't breastfeed, or I breastfed but I wasn't producing milk, they provided formula for the baby, and each time that she should get the formula, I didn't even have to remind them. They would prepare the milk and sometimes come for the baby and feed her. They gave her her first bath. I stood there watching them. They treated us very nicely. I had meals prepared for me, you know, and I could order what I wanted because I don't eat chicken. So I got fish, I got cornmeal porridge for breakfast. It was top tier, top tier. And so I just want to say thanks to my doctor. She knows herself. I don't know if she wants to be named. And thanks to the staff of the Montego Bay Hospital. I'm so happy that I chose the Montego Bay Hospital, and I'm so happy that I had a positive birth experience. So, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Memories and Motherhood podcast. I'm a photographer, as I said before. So, if you want a discount, 10% off your first, or you're a returning client of Little Memories JA, then you can use the code MOMENTS10 for 10% off your next photo session. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Memories and Motherhood podcast. It was a pleasure sharing time with you. Remember, like, share, subscribe to our channel, turn on the notification bells, and share this episode with a mama friend or someone who's part of the village. Thanks so much again for tuning in. See you soon.